Wonderful, so wonderful is your unfailing love. Your cross has spoken mercy over me, over me. No eye has seen, no ear has heard, no heart could fully know how glorious, how beautiful you are. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Powerful, so powerful, your glory fills the skies. Your mighty works displayed for all to see, all to see. The beauty of your majesty awakes my heart to sing. How marvelous, how wonderful you are. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. You opened my eyes to your wonders anew. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you. You opened my eyes to your wonders anew. You captured my heart with this love. 'Cause nothing on earth is as beautiful as you. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Beautiful one I love, beautiful one I adore, beautiful one my soul must sing. Faithful love flowing down from the thorn-covered crown makes me whole, saves my soul, washes whiter than snow. Faithful love calms each fear, reaches down, dries each tear, holds my hand when I can't stand on my own. Faithful love, from above, came to earth to show the Father's love. And I'll never be the same, for I've seen faithful love face to face, and Jesus is his name. Faithful love is a friend just when hope seems to end. Welcome face, sweet embrace, tender touch filled with grace. Faithful love, endless power, living flame, Spirit's fire, burning bright in the night, guiding my way. Faithful love, from above, came to earth to show the Father's love.
Welcome back, everyone. Psalm 61 is the focus of our attention this week. Psalm 61, I have to tell you from the outset, this is a fairly brief one. In my estimation, as vanilla a psalm as they come. Again, as I've said many a time, what I mean by that is fairly typical. Not terribly different from other psalms. You get the sense in which the psalmist is in some kind of difficulty, facing some kind of challenge, and is calling upon God to be his comfort, his protection, etc. And that is the general tenor of Psalm 61, as it is for most of them. There are a couple of things that stand out a little bit, and we'll try to call those out as we go. But it's a very brief psalm, only 8 verses, and it falls out rather handily into 2 distinct sections, and you can tell that because of that word Selah at the end of verse 4, which we've seen with multiple other psalms before this one. Again, that's a word that indicates, you'll notice in the superscription, to the chief musician upon Neganah. So this is, instructions that this is to be performed in a musical sense, that there, would have been attuned to this, and it would have been recited or sung in a particular fashion. And that word Selah indicates a pause. And generally, it's usually the case. It stands to reason. It indicates a pause in this instruction to the musician. It tends to indicate not always a change in thought, but it definitely helps to divide the psalm up into distinct sections, much in the same way that a paragraph helps with written prose. So in the first half of this, going to Brother Waycaster's handy outline, in the first half you have request and refuge, and then in the second half a reassurance and a result. Again, rather typical for what we've seen. This does note that it is a psalm of David. Again, no star. But unlike some of the last couple that we've seen, it doesn't provide a particular occasion for this one to have been written. Indeed, any number of occasions in David's life that this psalm would fit. Brother Waycaster notes here, he says, from the psalm itself, it seems to have been composed by one who was in exile, one that was king, verses 2 and 6. Again, that seems rather obvious. It was likely composed by David when he was driven into exile upon the rebellion of Absalom. That's a little less obvious to me. I don't dispute it. Certainly that could be the case, but personally I don't see anything specific here that suggests that. He says, notice 2 Samuel 17:22. I did, and again, I don't see the connection with the psalm. It could be any number of other occasions in David's life that would fit as well. He also says here, the 42nd and 43rd Psalms seem to have been composed on the same occasion. Yet again, I'm coming up short on that one. I went back and looked at 42 and 43, and I see absolutely nothing there that would tie them all together, especially to the same occasion. But perhaps I'm missing, because he doesn't really go on to elaborate. I'll leave the challenge to you all who are watching this. If you see anything, again, that specifically links them together, by all means, let me know. I don't see it. In a general sense, sure, they do have a lot in common in terms of the theme and some of the language and things. But as I said at the outset, that's true for a lot of psalms. So I don't know, but take it for what it is. Again, that occasion certainly could fit. So we'll read through it and note a couple of things that stood out to me as we go through. Hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer, starting out the way many a psalm does. From the end of the earth will I cry unto thee. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. He's in a difficult position. As I just noted a second ago, Brother Waycaster cites verse 2 here and says he seems to have written it from exile. He seems to have written it from a difficult situation. I suppose he says that where he says, from the end of the earth I'll cry unto thee, right? So he's somewhere far, far away. I could see that. It could also be metaphorical, poetic language, either way. For thou hast been a shelter for me and a strong tower for the enemy. very common imagery of the psalmist, of David. Shelters, a tower, fortress, rock, stronghold, somewhere where he is protected, and whoever it is on this occasion who is giving him trouble cannot get to him. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings. Selah. Again, that word indicating this pause, a little bit of not a huge change in thought here, right? This isn't one of those psalms where you have this very clear delineation. And to me, that both halves of this psalm seem pretty similar, even though you can divide it out. Anyway, here he says, I will trust in the covert of thy wings. I could not help but be reminded of Matthew 23:37. So this is just before the Olivet Discourse in Matthew. Towards the end of Jesus' life, he's there with his disciples. They're in Jerusalem before the temple. And Jesus famously cries out, "O Jerusalem, Jerusalem," lamenting the fact that the Jewish people, God's people, Israel, haven't been everything that they were supposed to have been, going all the way back to Exodus and Deuteronomy, right? I'll be to you a God, you'll be to me a people. And then they're given all these things that are to set them apart, to make them unique, to be a light to the world. And time again, of course, as you go through their history, they fall short of these things. And as we discussed just this past Sunday, the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, right? The Old Covenant ends at the cross. The New Covenant starts at the cross. I would strongly contend, and we've had this discussion as well, I think just the week before last, if not the week before that, we touched upon it at great length in our Bible class on Sunday morning. God's dealings with the physical nation of Israel were for a specific reason with a specific aim in mind. Jesus Christ, the cross, is that aim. I contend that God's dealings with the nation of Israel specifically, the physical people, ended with the cross. It ended, and from that point forward, it is everyone. It's Jew and Greek or Gentile alike. It's the entire world. Romans 1:16, right? The Jew first, and also to the Greek. So any Jewish person, right? So anyone who is a descendant of Abraham, their father, their mother are Jewish, they're born into a Jewish family. If they want to be one of God's people, if they want to be an Israelite in the New Testament sense, then they go about it the same way that you or I, as Gentiles, would, and that is obeying the gospel, becoming a Christian. And again, there you have Jesus, again, as I'm going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, Matthew 23, Jesus lamenting over Jerusalem and the Jewish people in general. You haven't been everything that God had hoped you would be, right, as His people. And he's there in that context, prophesying ultimately the destruction of this magnificent temple, this wonderful edifice that had been there and had served as the focus of the religion of Judaism for all these years, and it was coming to an end. But anyway, here David's talking about trusting in the covert of God's wings. That's the hope. But of course, as again Matthew 23:37, God will offer that protection. He wants everyone to avail themselves of it, but you have to choose to do it. It is entirely possible to spurn the invitation, as we sometimes sing in the invitation song. So he said, "I will trust in the covert of thy wings." God offers the protection. He offers the refuge, but we must accept it. It is possible. It is possible to spurn it altogether. For thou, O God, hast heard my vows, continuing in verse 5. Thou hast given me the heritage of those that fear thy name. Again, he's been made king over Israel. Thou wilt prolong the king's life and his years as many generations. You might note to the side of that 2 Samuel 7, 12, and 13. You can kind of get into a bit of a debate here. is this messianic in its import? 2 Samuel 7, 12, and 13, in which you read there of David's throne, David's kingdom being established forever. Almost universally accepted among Christians that that is messianic in its import, that it's ultimately referring to Christ in the long run, David in the short run. Is that the case here? I'm inclined to think not. David is referring to the fact that he has been made king over Israel, and he knows that God will preserve his life, and that this rule that's been established is going to continue. I could be wrong about that, but I think this is a reference to David's own life and the protection that he's seeking from God. Verse 7, he shall abide before God forever. And you take that and link it to the other two and say, well, no, there's more to it than that. And maybe there is. I'm not saying there's not. But, again, the person who is faithful, the person who abides in God's tabernacle forever, who trusts in the covert of God's wings, who takes refuge in God, that person's going to live forever before God. It could also be messianic. Prepare mercy and truth, which may preserve him. So will I sing praise unto thy name forever, that I may daily perform my vows. So, like many a psalm, starting out with a prayer, starting out with this challenge, this struggle that's facing him, concluding with this faith in God. But there is one more thing that I'll note before we finish. Verse 8. You could draw a comparison here to Luke 11:3. This is a line within what's known as the Lord's Prayer. I've heard many a preacher say, and I agree, that perhaps a better title for it is the model prayer. It's an example, not a template per se, but it gives you some idea of what a prayer ought to look like. Right, the true Lord's Prayer, I would argue, is found in John 17 as he's in the Garden of Gethsemane. What you find there in Luke 11, Matthew 6 is more of a model, an example of what it should look like. But anyway, there in Luke 11:3, you have this famous statement, "Give us this day our daily bread," and it's within the context of this model prayer, which begins with praise to God, just as we find here. And I suppose the thought would be, again, kind of taking the two of these verses, is that there's a relationship between recognizing God and indeed praising God, understanding that God is the Creator, understanding that God is the giver of all good things, that He is worthy of our praise, and that He is the one to whom we should look for our life, for the way that we live our life, for all of these things. There's a direct relationship between that and going about our daily business successfully and peacefully, and it's and perhaps it even ties into what we discussed just this past week, the week before, recently, in a sermon. God's providential care, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. You could link that thought to it as well. I praise God, and then I set about with whatever my daily business in this life is, in light of putting God first. I'll sing praise unto thy name forever, that I may perform my daily vows. So I can get about the business of what I need to do. Perhaps I'm not being as articulate as I'd like to be here, but whatever it is I set about doing in this life, I do it all subsequent to the understanding that God gives all things, and that I do all things ultimately to His glory and to His praise. Again, give us this day our daily bread comes in after this idea of hallowed be thy name, praising God, giving thanks to God for all of these things. So that is Psalm 61 in a nutshell. Again, rather straightforward, rather vanilla, but hopefully we have managed to pull out a few rather distinctive nuggets from it. Lord willing, next time we will pick back up with Psalm 62. Thank you all, as always, for your kind attention this week.
Over all all the earth you reign on high, every mountain stream, every sunset sky. But my one request, Lord, my only aim, is that you'd reign in me again. Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Over every thought, over every word, may my life reflect the beauty of my Lord. 'Cause you mean more to me than any earthly thing. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? Lord, reign in me, reign in your power over all my dreams. In my darkest hour, you are the Lord of all I am. So won't you reign in me again? You are